Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, Mel, do you have your channel on here yet?
No, I don't.
Okay, go ahead and do that. I'm going to do an introduction. Go ahead and start working. Put your channel on here so we can make
No,
sure.
it's a, you said put my channel on here or put it on my channel.
No, like add your channel on here so we can make sure everybody's like there, ready to go.
Yeah, my channel's up on my page. I thought you was asking me if I was streaming to my channel. I'm not.
No, stream to your channel.
No, I'm not. It's okay.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because I would
So,
have to put in the title and description and all that. I don't want to do all this. Okay.
okay, so let's get into it. So, shouts out to Mel. He has been at the Diddy trial, and I've also been working with Mel when it comes down to what's going on. I've been listening to what he had to say. Just got off of Madge the Black Owls channel talking about what the discovery was. So let's go into it. What is the latest discovery when it comes down to the Diddy trial?
Well, as of Friday, they interviewed the lady that's part of Homeland Security. She was part of the team that went in to the hotel that arrested Diddy that night that we all heard about. So on Friday, she described the items that they had picked up. There was bottles of baby oil. There was 5 bottles of baby oil in the tub. There was some baby oil in the nightstand. There was $9,000 of cash that they took. There was a camera that was up pointing toward a bed. There was some lighting that you would use for production. There was 2 small baggies of pink ketamine. There was also a Louis Vuitton bag referred to as a Medi bag, I believe. And in that bag, there was bottles of some sort of pills that had the alias Frank Black as the name. And then there was another bottle that did not have a name at all. So those are some of the items that were confiscated the day that he was arrested.
Right. So now we did our show earlier where we talked about like some of the things that Cassie said initially in the trial, but I did want to bring up some people that wanted to discuss some of the things that were discovered. So let's have this conversation. Let's go in. Let's get into it. So what did you find? And then Calvin Johnson is an attorney, and we have
Hello, how are
Betty
you?
Fran,
How are
who
you?
is a
Hey,
researcher
doing?
that's been researching the trial. And
Hello,
then we
how are
have
you?
Mel Smith that's been at the trial. So let's get into what has been found out and have a conversation about this entire thing. So who wants to speak first?
Let
Me.
me go ahead. Let me
Oh,
go into a couple of things. And it's funny how we watch and we see some of what Cassie said today. And I know we all watch this trial religiously. But to me, it's more of, is Puffy a freak? Yeah. Is he nasty? Yeah. But when it comes to actual sex trafficking, I really don't see this based off some of the things that Cassie said and some of the things that have come out. In addition to that, people need to understand the origins of this sex trafficking law that he's actually charged with, violating. It has a racist history. It actually initially was used to convict Jack Johnson, the heavyweight boxer back in the 1900s. Y'all remember who he was? Jack
Yeah, I
yes.
Johnson,
remember
one of the
that.
greatest fighters of all time. But he used to knock white guys out and date white women like it wasn't nothing. And they became very angry because he was knocking white guys out and then he was dating white women several at a time. For be told, he would get on public trains, use public transportation. He would do it openly and he wouldn't apologize about it. And they got so upset that they came up with the Mann Act. And basically, if you're trafficking a woman from one state to another with the purposes of sex or immoral purposes, then that's what they can charge you with. And so what Puffy actually is charged with in one of the RICO cases is one of the prohibitives of that, which is the Mann Act, which is basically trafficking women or people from state to state with the purposes of sexual kinds of behaviors. And so when you look at it, to me, based on what I've seen, and I know, Mel, you've been watching and you're deep in it, I'm looking at Cassie as a willing participant at times. Even when she does leave Puppy, she goes back. To me, that's not somebody who's being trafficked. They're deciding when they can leave and when they can go. And that's what I have an issue with. Is Puppy nasty? Yeah. Is he a freak? Yeah. Does he have a lot of money and he probably can use that money to get people to do what he wants them to do? Yeah. But to me, that doesn't compete to sex trafficking to me. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Very good.
I feel the same way. I just feel like the RICO charge, there's no RICO charge in that. They have not proven that at all. So he's charged with three things. It's RICO, coercion, and sex trafficking. I have not seen any in that case at all. And then with Cassie, she was just like you said, a willing participant in everything. And you cannot, nobody, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, poor Cassie. She put herself in that predicament and could have walked away at any time. And that's, I mean, I feel the same way you feel. So I just want to know how, like, when she was speaking up there, how was the jury looking? Like, did they just had a numb face on there, like looking at her, or was they like had an expression like, oh, or you really couldn't tell?
Mel, tell us what you think about how the jury was
I
looking.
I could tell because I'm sitting right there looking at the jury. I'm not that far from any of these people, actually. Could I just
Mm-hmm.
give you a little breakdown before I get started?
Yep.
In the very front, you have the judge, the witness box. Okay. Then you have the prosecutors, which are 6 Caucasian women lined up across the front.
Mm-hmm.
Right behind them, which when I went to Trump trial, you had the uh, defense on the left. Trump was in front of me on the left, and on the right hand side was the prosecutors. But in this case, the defense is sitting behind the prosecutors. So Diddy is sitting right in front of us. His family is the first 2 or 3 rows, and then you have the
Mm-hmm.
public, another 2 rows, and then they keep the back row empty. We're not sure why they do that. On the right hand
Mm-hmm.
side, you have the jury sitting to the right, facing the judge and the witness. So we can see them very well. During Cassie's testimony, she's very
Mm-hmm.
sweet. She's
Mm-hmm.
often smiling. It's unbelievable. When they played the video of her getting beat, you never see her cry at all. The only time you see her cry is when she talks about her love for Diddy that she had and how he influenced her life. That's the only time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last day, she broke down crying because under the defense, it was getting very contentious. But during the time of the prosecutors doing their direct, she was
Mm-hmm.
very pleasant. The jury was looking at her very nicely. But then when she was cross-examined, some of the points that came out, you could see some of them like sitting back,
Like,
like giving those expressions. So you start getting a lot of
right.
those under the cross-examination.
Mm.
Interesting. Interesting. Because I was wondering how they were looking and how they were reacting to that kind of testimony. Because I've had situations before where some of them will visibly tell you that they're listening or they're not listening, or that they approve or disapprove of what they're hearing. And so I was wondering, like, could you? I know you're sitting close to them. Did you see any of that, those looks or those kind of emotions that they really try to hide, but they may let out for a second?
Yeah, because it's very explosive. On Friday, it was very explosive. Some of the things that came out. First, on Thursday, there were 2
Mm-hmm.
points of interest that came out that I think had a more of a mild effect on the jury.
Mm.
I'll break it down for you real quick. Cassie had testified during direct that one night she was at the house with Diddy. This is in LA. One of
Mm-hmm.
Diddy's assistants, bodyguards, or what have you, he went to the diner. He saw Suge Knight, came
Mm-hmm.
back to Diddy, said, "Hey, Suge is down at the diner." Cassie says that Diddy and his crew members that work for him, they all jumped into the car dressed in black with their guns, heading to the diner. They came back about 30 minutes later. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Under cross-examination, which had an effect on the jury, they said, wait, so you testified that you did not go with them to Mel's diner. And
Mm-hmm.
then she says, well, did you know that back in October when you sat with the prosecutors, that you told them that you did go to the diner and you were crying because you didn't want to go? And then the jury goes, oh, wow. There's another
Mm.
case during the prosecutors direct. They said to her, you know, how did he treat your friends or what have you? And she recanted that she talked about this moment when one of her friends was in the living room, I believe, and Diddy took a wooden hanger and popped her in the head really
Mm-hmm.
hard. And Cassie says she saw it. Uh, And then during the cross examination, they said, did you know back in October when you gave this prosecutors asked you this question, you said that you were in the bathroom and you heard it? So
Mm-hmm. I
that
thought
was
that she was
another
asleep. I thought they said she was asleep in the bedroom and she heard it, or it was she was
in the bathroom.
in the
That's what was
bathroom.
said, yeah, on
Mm-hmm.
Thursday. So those were two cases where you could really see like the jury, like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Also in the
Mm-hmm.
audience, people were really making a lot of commotion because she looks
Oh
like a
wow.
very good witness. And so when you get that
Mm-hmm.
kind of distortion, it gets people
Hmm.
up in arms. But then on Friday, people were
Mm-hmm.
really going crazy when it came down to the accusation of rape and also finding out about the 10 million that she got from the settlement she got from the hotel.
Oh, from the
So then the
Continental
audience goes
Hotel.
crazy. You know, the audience goes crazy. The jury's like, "Oh my goodness, she got $10 million." You know, and Diddy on
Oh.
when you did the when they were doing the jury selection, Diddy
Mm-hmm.
was often real sad. You could tell he was scared. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when this all came out on Friday, you saw Diddy come back to life. He was blowing kisses to his family. He was
Mm.
looking around, extended to the audience at certain people, like, yeah, you know, that's kind of a deal. And you could see Cassie looking rather despondent.
Now, do
Go
you
ahead.
think that they're laying out like the RICO trial, like the RICO charges? Are they laying that out slowly? Because that's what like a lot of commentators say. They're going to come in. They're going to like really get it. You know, they're just laying the foundation. Now, what do you think? You're there. Are they laying that out for that?
Of course they are. And here's the issue. Everybody's saying, oh, you know, this, you guys know the Fed's rate for prosecuting people is in the 90s,
99%.
right?
Yeah, 99%.
99,
Mm-hmm.
99,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number one, they have ladies that are incredible. When I tell you they sound like angels talking, they're just
Uh-huh.
laying this case out so beautifully, and they make it sound like they're telling a story,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't
Mm.
flub 1 inch. You hear me? So
Hmm.
that's a key factor as far as how. I mean, you guys know when you're a public speaker or you have to get in the courthouse, you have all these facts, and you have to be able to lay it out in front of people and not make mistakes and flub.
Mm-hmm.
These ladies are perfect. I'm telling you, they put a lot of time into this particular case. But what they're doing is slowly dropping a shoe every day, every couple of
Mm.
hours. They're just slowly dropping, and they're building a solid case. And I'm telling you, it's rather incredible to sit there and watch it.
Oh, okay.
What my experience has been with the feds is they typically what you have is you either have high achieving folks that go to some of the best schools, or you get people that have prosecuted either in local or state district attorney's offices that have done extremely well. So they have a lot of experience. You almost have to be recruited to go over to work at the feds as a prosecutor, and so you're going to get some of the cream of the crop in terms of what you're running up against, and then you're fighting against unlimited resources. People need to understand that. I used to have my guys, and it's funny how we talk about trafficking. I've represented a lot of men and ladies of the night, as they say, in Fed cases, doing some of the pimping and prostitution cases. which is trafficking, whatever, whatnot. And what I try to tell the guys, I say, look, if you create a situation to where federal money and federal charges come, as opposed to state charges, the game just went up to another level because they just have unlimited resources to truly be able to go after you. Like you just said, those prosecutors, they didn't miss a beat because they have everything possible at their disposal that they need to be able to do what they need to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. So just let me go over this with you real quick. And I'm taking notes so you guys can take it for what it's worth. The prosecutor laid out 3 charges: racketeering, part of an enterprise course of time where his bodyguards and chief of staff for over 20 years, kidnap, arson, bribery, obstruction, transporting people over state lines. Now, I'll give you just a little background off my memory. When it came down to arson, there was a rapper she started to see, Cassie, for less than 30 days. They dated. I think he visited her out in Connecticut when she had left Diddy temporarily.
Kid Cudi.
So, Kid Cudi, they were seeing each other. She had feelings for him. Diddy found out about it. And so he set up a meeting with Cassie and Kid Cudi. And Cassie said that Diddy wanted to blow up his car and have his friends see it when it happened. And so when they had this meeting, basically Cassie said, Kid Cudi said something about a car, and Diddy said, what car? And so in the case, they're establishing the point that they haven't laid out the facts for that, but that his car was burned down. So that's where you're probably going to get the arson
But
from.
wouldn't that be hearsay?
No, not really. If they tie him to it, they would have to tie him to it through information that they did in their investigation. And unless one of his bodyguards are turning on him, they'll have to kind of make that causal connection. Now, sometimes they have a strong connection by having somebody that was actually involved in it that they can trace back to Diddy. Or what they'll try to do is they'll try to put it out there hoping that it kind of sticks. And you just got to be careful about that. But I would imagine that maybe they have somebody that is going to testify to that fact. And all the feds got to do is threaten the right person, threaten the weakest link, and they're going to turn because nobody wants smoke with the feds because it's a monumental task. If you don't have a lot of money, you can't really fight them.
I heard that too.
So the other part of this is kidnapping, and they laid out in the opening statements how Diddy basically kidnapped an employee and held her against her will, and then kidnapped her again and subjected her to days of
abuse.
The truth test that they give you. I'm drawing a blank here. The honesty test. What do they call that?
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah.
they put her through the lie detector test. That's what I was looking for. So that's where you get the kidnapping from. Bribery. When you see the fight at the hotel, there's a security guy that comes out. He's actually a police officer now, but he said that when he was called up at the time of the video, when Cassie was being beat, he comes out of the elevator. At some point in that time, Diddy offered him $100,000 in a brown paper bag. So that's where they're getting that bribery from. I'm just only touching on what has been put out already.
Right.
And then you also have transporting people. So basically what they're laying out is that you're paying 2 people to have sex. And to answer your question about are they laying this out slow, when they brought out the first witness, which was the escort, they kept asking him, okay, so how were you hired? And he laid out how he was hired. His boss was called from Cowboys and Angels, the company or whatever. And he showed up. It was Cassie's birthday. Who paid you? So they laid it out that Diddy and Cassie at certain points were paying for the sex. this is
Mm-hmm.
prostitution. This is the argument of prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
And then also the escorts are saying that they were being flown from,
Oh,
like,
into different
Diddy had
cities.
5 different houses, and if
Mm-hmm.
they liked the guy from New York and he was available, they'd fly him to LA. So that's where you're getting the transporting of people. And then number 2, the second charge is fraud, lying about a material fact, force. In the video now, you see she's getting beaten and drugged back to the room, or trying to get her back to the room. And coercion was the third part of that one. And then number 3 is transporting across state lines. Cassie and Jane were subjected to sex and control. And basically, Diddy's staff, employees, chefs were buying drugs, supplying it. So if they were having a freak off and they ran out of drugs or something of the sort, they would go and have the chef or whoever was available to bring more drugs to the room. So this is where you're getting this colluding from the security guards. Cassie said that certain times she tried to get away, and Diddy would either come looking for her or send a security guard to go get her and bring her back to the house. So they had complete control of her, and he used people that work for him to make this happen. So this is where they're trying to paint. This was the opening argument. And then for the jury, these are the 3 points, and then I'll let you break it all down for us. He says, well, you know what, I'll keep the jury separate. I'll hit those points when you're done explaining.
Well, one thing I wanted to definitely go over, and you're right about the trafficking. Now, if you're hiring escorts and you're flying them all over the country, that's going to cause Puffy a problem. As far as Cassie, he may not have a problem, and when it comes to her, when it comes to that, but if you're flying escorts for the purposes of sex all over the country, that would greatly concern me. The other part of it is, if the prosecution is smart, and I think that they probably are, when you work with people with means, and I've had the pleasure of working for somebody or a couple of people who are extremely wealthy, when stuff starts to go south, typically if they're doing something they're not supposed to do, they have people around them that will provide them with things that they don't want to get caught with, don't want to get caught buying. It's almost like you got a fall guy or two. And in Puffy's situation, because he's a billionaire, you got security people, you got personal assistants. You know, I've heard stories about Farnsworth Bentley and some of the things that he was required to do as he's working with Puffy. And it's basically, you have people to insulate you from the criminal behavior. And so when the feds come with a RICO case, they typically are saying that you, along with your organization, which would be your chefs, your security people, your personal assistants, your staff, y'all are basically running an organization that allows for him to be insulated, but you are all working in concert to commit a particular crime. So that's kind of what they're trying to do. And I'm glad that you said that, Mel, because if they're dropping those little pieces of bird food, then that's why they're dropping that bird food.
But I thought in RICO, to where you would have to make money like how the mob did. Like the mob is RICO, right?
No, it's not a money thing. It's criminal behavior, because some of the things that the mob did, it wasn't always about money. Sometimes it was about control. And it was about being able to participate in criminal behavior. And sometimes that criminal behavior didn't make you money, but that criminal behavior allowed you to continue your criminality as a head of an organization. So it doesn't necessarily have to be money when it comes to those RICO things. It almost is, if you're helping them violate the law, circumvent the law, get around the law, you're trying to insulate yourself by having layers of people between you. And that's what Puffy did, allegedly. Then that's why they use those RICO charges. Because the other thing you got to understand too, in a RICO charge, let's say I have somebody at the top like Puffy, and I got my bodyguards, and I got 3 personal assistants, and they got assistants. And let's say that these assistants never ever talked to Puffy, or even the third level people have never spoken with Puffy. They don't have to. As long as they are connected some way to somebody that he's connected with in the organization, that allows them to get you on a RICO. That's why the RICO cases are very, very hard to find, because you'll have person A not ever know person F1, F2, and F3, and F4. And because they are working in concert, you can still get hit in a RICO with that.
Wow, that's something. So let me ask you something in regards to the whole coercion. They keep trying to drop this little shoe. They keep saying that you gave her a contract for 10 albums. Cassie, how many albums did you do? One. Did you do another album? No. Why? After I did the first album, I did so many freak offs back to back, back to back. I never could make any more money. And Diddy was jealous because now we're in a semi relationship. I'm his side chick or whatever they're trying to paint the picture of. So I can't make any money. He doesn't want me to do my modeling anymore. So now she can't make money. So that's where the Fed is building this coercion to saying that you took away all her resources. So now she's totally dependent on you. And she's doing these freak offs with these men that are being flown. And check this out. They went overseas on several occasions. They had one or two of the escorts come overseas while they're there. So that's international too. I mean, you would say.
Yeah. But you know, one of the things in terms of the coercion, I think as a defense attorney, I definitely try to knock those down, because at the end of the day, you made choices to be with me. You didn't have to be with me. There were times you could have gotten away, and of course she's going to say, "Oh, he was going to get this person, that person." But let's be honest, you left him for the guy he paid to train you. Y'all got kids together now. Even after that, you went back to him. After he kind of maybe let you go your way. So in terms of that coercion, I think Puffy and his team definitely need to try to fight that off. And I think that based on some of those text messages, as a defense attorney, I would be able to effectively cross-examine Cassie and try to knock those charges down. But at Mel, as I'm talking to you and you start talking about the international flights and the escorts and the freak offs, now that's going to be a problem, because you're paying them money to do the freak offs. You're flying them all over the country to do the freak offs. I would really, really, really be concerned about that in particular. Now,
but didn't she say that she thought it was abuse herself? She didn't think it was like, because she would be a co-conspirator in the RICO. Really? Like, I mean, she is like, she's a prostitute to him and he's the pimp? No, she was setting up all the parties, the freak off parties they was having. She was doing all that stuff and paying the people and telling the male prostitutes what to do to her. Like,
exactly.
It's like
she said, didn't she say I can't wait to the next freak off, or I can't wait to the freak off? So when you start participating like that, that's what I get concerned about. That's where I'm gonna try to light Cassie up if I'm a defense attorney.
Yeah. So just as a matter of what's in court, both of them set up freak offs. They actually show where she said Diddy set up freak offs too. So they're slowly dripping it in, and also you have these other individuals that they haven't put on the stand yet, that in the opening arguments they revealed that these girls are going to basically come in and say the same thing, that they were part of freak offs. One girl said she was in the freak off for days. She couldn't get any sleep. She was getting beaten. So it's not just Cassie, and I think therein lies the issue, because everybody wants to pretty much say, okay, this case is shaping up this way.
right.
But the government has so many witnesses yet to come. And I think that's what the issue is going to be. Now, let me give you an example. You had mentioned something about mob. On Friday, the last witness was from Danity Kane. Her name is Dawn Rashad or whatever.
Yep,
so
Dawn
she said,
Rashad.
okay. So she said that there was cases where she saw Diddy beating Cassie. In one case in particular, Diddy had Cassie make him some eggs. She wasn't making it fast enough. He came downstairs and says, "What the F was taking with my eggs?" Grabbed her by her neck, hit her with a skillet. And as he hit her with the skillet, she said it looked like Cassie fell with it, like she had been hit before, so she didn't take the full blow. Grabbed her by her neck, pulled her upstairs, was hitting her in the head, kicking her. Then they hear glasses breaking, and then the next time they're in the studio, Diddy says,
Mm-hmm.
in love, there's a lot of passion and people love, they do crazy things, whatever. But if you talk about this, you could end up dead. When you talk about things you shouldn't, and he handed them
Mm-hmm.
flowers. And that's when the defense jumped up and says, objection, because now that's where we're getting this mob boss talk about in the media.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Now I see it.
yeah.
Because
And
I didn't see it at first with her
mm.
testifying. I guess now when it goes on in the trial, it'll start painting more of a picture of how, yeah, okay.
So that's why I'm bringing it to you straight. This is my position. That's why I'm bringing you these
Yeah.
inside
Right.
stories so you can get these inner little tidbits and so forth. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what you just said, them dropping them tidbits. They're going to use those other people, like the Danity Kane person. They're probably going to use other people that saw things. I've heard that there was a maid at some point that worked for Puffy that saw some strange things while she was working with him. And just from all of my memories of kind of watching Puffy through the years, like I'm a student of his in terms of his rise, where he came from, who he worked with, who he's connected to. People don't even understand the Clarence Avant connection that he has, and that's a whole nother story. But I definitely wanted to figure out how they were going to approach those things, and I think that even if basically what you're letting us know, and I'm glad you're there watching it, even if they don't get him through Cassie, they have a number of other witnesses that can connect enough dots that are going to cause the prosecution a lot of problems. I mean, the defense a lot of problems, basically.
Do
That's
you
what you're
think
letting.
they do you think they're doing the trial fast because it's like 8 weeks and it's on a time schedule, or this is how the feds work?
At the
I,
conclusion of Friday, they said the prosecutor says they're pretty strong about the case. They don't need 8 weeks anymore. They want to cut it down to 6. And
Wow.
that might change.
Wow.
The judge has been scolding. I have a little chart where I keep the objections. The judge and overruling, the
Mm-hmm.
judge is definitely more in the prosecutor side. I would say they're winning more of those type of and there was something let me see. It was so bad that Diddy's attorney said something like, I'm pulling defeat from the jaws of victory, because
Mhm.
every time they try to present something, it's getting shut down. They feel like they're being
Mm-hmm.
defeated just from the judge's decisions. And I thought that was very interesting.
Well, can I say something about that? A lot of times, and people don't understand, they object, and of course, the judge sometimes can maybe favor one side over the other based on what you're seeing. But a lot of the times, the defense attorneys object because if the judge rules improperly on something, it allows the ability to be able to appeal later. It allows sometimes the ability to overturn things. So sometimes judges have to be careful in how much they do in terms of these how they rule on those objections, because when they make mistakes, really good defense attorneys and really good appellate attorneys will find mistakes that judges make. And in Diddy's situation, Diddy has the ability to hire some of the best appellate lawyers in the entire country. And people go, what do you mean appellate lawyers, trial lawyers? You got trial lawyers like myself. I'm a trial lawyer, which I enjoy courthouses, at questioning witnesses. I can take one word and I can make a fruit tree out of it, right? Um,
Mm.
but the appellate lawyers, they're a different breed. They're more bookwormish. They understand the rules. They understand rulings. They understand variations of those rules and angles to get appeals when judges make the wrong decision on objections. So Puppy is going to have some of the best in the country, some of the best bookworm attorneys in the country on appeal if he loses, to look through every objection, every question that was asked, and everything that went on in this case. And I think extremely interesting. And Mel, we appreciate you letting us know that, because that's just another facet that maybe the general public doesn't understand. Sometimes they'll say, well, the judges with the prosecution, and sometimes these defense attorneys are just objecting to make sure that they preserve what we call error, which means if they make a mistake, if you object and they rule wrong, you can go back and appeal on it.
Oh, okay. Wow. Nice. So let me run this past you. Let's see what you think about it. So Cassie, in this particular case, she gave her testimony, and she said that in August, I think of whatever year it was, 2018, when she was breaking up with Diddy, what have you. I'm speaking loosely. That he had raped her in August, and then in September they had consensual sex, right?
Yep.
Okay, but then she also had the civil suits, and also she was also being questioned by prosecutors for this case also. So she also testified that she was raped in September instead of August. So what the defense did, they got her on the stand. They said to her, listen, so you say you had this happened to you in August. You said a month later it was consensual. And then they said, didn't you start seeing your now husband while you were dating Diddy? Yeah. And didn't you stop dating Diddy and you start dating your now husband more, and you're totally now in a relationship with him? And doesn't this happen, while you're with your new husband and away from Diddy, and on that night that you're saying that it's consensual, that your husband starts calling you while you're in the act with Diddy, and you shut down his call? And isn't it true that this is the night that you told your husband that he had raped you? So that was like a big defining moment in the trial.
Let me tell y'all something. I think that the defense has probably did a great job of questioning Cassie. I think they'll be able to knock her accusations out. She's gotten paid a lot of money. She seems to be participating in the freak offs. She goes to be with a trainer he paid for, gets with the trainer, then goes back to be with Diddy, even after she alleges that he raped her. Then she had consensual, and then you went right back again. And then I think that it's going to be an issue, them believing Cassie. And I think if the prosecution is smart, which I think that they are, how many other witnesses testified before Cassie? Tell me how many.
Two. You had the sex worker, and you had the police officer who was the security guard at that time at the hotel.
And how many more witnesses did they say they have about? Do you know?
No, I'm not sure the exact amount.
They probably have another 5 or 6 is what I would guess. And the reason why I say that's important, they're putting Cassie on the front end. So if it doesn't work for Cassie, the jury, when they go into the deliberations, they won't think about Cassie as much. If there's weaknesses in the Cassie issue, what the state will do is they'll probably try to hold off on their best witnesses to the end so that they can leave strong impressions about what happened. When I have a weak witness, or I have a witness that causes me a lot of problems, I put them early. The reason why I put them early is because I want to deal with my problems early. And in addition to that, I ask questions that are going to be a problem for me so that they don't get to ask them their way. I ask it my way. I always tell people I want to deal with my problems my way on my terms, which means if I know I got a witness that has a problem with B, C, and D, I'm going to ask them about B, C, and D first so that I can deal with it in the way that I want to. So them putting Cassie in the beginning, that might be strategic. So they're stronger witnesses toward the end. So let's say Cassie gets off the stand and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strong witnesses at the end. That's going to be smart for them. That's what I do. Right. I deal with my headaches in the beginning, my troubled people in the beginning, and I say my stronger witnesses for the behind.
But didn't they say the case was all like about her and their relationship? to center all of that around, because it seemed like, okay, the girl Dawn is up. So Dawn, she's talking like about the abuse, and everybody knows she got abused.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that, but he's not there for abuse. He's not there. He's not there for rape. He's not there for none of that. And I hate to say that. That's where he needs to be, in that predicament of abusing that girl. But it's not the case. He's in, I mean, you broke it down to me, but I still see loops in the government. I mean, I don't see it strong in the government. I just don't see it.
Let me tell you what they're doing. Let me tell you what I think that they're doing. What you want to do is you want to paint Puffy as like a master puppeteer, right? You want to paint him as a master puppeteer, which means you want to make him seem like he's a person that gets down and dirty. You want to make it seem like he's a person that's going to orchestrate things.
But didn't they say,
like that?
But I don't mean to cut you off, but didn't they say that he was sex trafficking kids? Where is that at? That should have came up right away. Instead of Cassie's abuse. Like, Cassie has been abused. We know that. And I mean, we just don't deny that. But where is the kids at? Where's the kids?
I don't think he was doing that, because, you know, people keep saying that. Guys like that, they're very, very careful. Even if you're a guy that's out living that nasty lifestyle or whatever, you're going to be extremely careful about that, man. Because let me explain to you. Even those guys know, and they have good lawyers. Everybody knows in that realm, the minute that you have an underage person, it doesn't stay local. It can go state and it can go federal at that point. And the last thing you want is the feds on your butt. Now, what I think that they're doing, even though Cassie may be not a good witness for them, they may be setting up patterns of behavior for Puffy. And then what they'll do, they're showing what he's willing to do and how he behaves. And then they're going to have the other people, like you said, the other people tied in. So they're dropping cheese, but right now, and then they're going to trap the rat later, which means they're setting up patterns of behavior that, well, maybe he didn't traffic Cassie, but he did fly this person, that person there, this person, that person there. Then the next thing you know, they're bringing up witnesses that are not like Cassie, that don't have text messages with Puffy, that they can show went from California to Texas, to Louisiana, to Georgia, to New York, or to.
But how many celebrities out there have flown different females to different states and paid them? And they went out and they got clothes from them. They got a free hotel. Like, I mean,
that's what I would do. That's what I would, as his attorney, that's what I would say, number one. And number two, it really isn't him flying them. He's having other people arrange it, number one. So they're going to say, we just wanted some freaks, and we just got some people to come over. Man, they wanted to come. I didn't make them come do anything. So those are the things that the defense attorney teams will try to do. And I definitely understand what you're saying. And I'm going to tell you the scary part for me, because I don't want to be talking too much. The scary part for me is if I'm a man of means and I have the ability, if I meet a young lady in New York and I can fly to Texas, or California and I can fly to Texas, and I start doing that and we start hooking up, and I'm helping her out because she needs a little help. And it's not like that, but I'm helping her every time she come out because I got money. I'm not tripping. But you got to be careful now as a man. If that person has a situation with you and y'all stop seeing each other, she gets upset with you, she'll pull a Cassie on you. You got to be careful nowadays. As men, got to be a lot more careful when they're dealing with women in this kind of realm.
I have a question. So how close do you think that this case can set a precedent across the board when it comes down to, because all case law is built on precedent. So, with the Nature Boy situation, it built the precedent. Okay, so if you have any like porn, like that is a certain way, like when it comes down to like what is it called, like what you call porn? Like when you like use porn against somebody?
Yeah, revenge porn.
Blackmail.
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 Like, what you call porn? I think it's like rage porn. I
Black
don't know
porn. It's actually revenge porn. They're actually
revenge
statutes.
porn.
Yeah,
So
revenge
now,
porn.
because Nature Boy, there's like a revenge porn precedent, right?
Yeah.
So now you have a Cassie precedent to where if he gets locked up, now it's a matter of if you fly a person from here to there, right? Now that is considered trafficking.
Well,
And
see,
then it's meant to catch up most of the hip hop artists and this, that, the other that are doing this and whatever. What do you think about that?
well, I'll say this, and it goes back to what I said to y'all about what did I start my conversation off with? The man acting Jack Johnson, right? These laws have been used to really, really, really go after a lot of African Americans or people of means that we may not agree with their lifestyles. Like as a black man, when they tried to sue Jay-Z and Diddy for that other kid stuff, that Tony Busby stuff that was fake, I was actually concerned because I said they found out that these two guys have $1 billion and can start doing whatever they want to do. They don't need the vehicles of the radio stations, the television stations. Jay-Z had title. He can go direct to consumer. So when you start talking about things like that, and they start going after African American men with money that are out there. And I give you an example. Remember when Puffy dressed as a Joker? Remember? And they told him, "Don't dress as a Joker anymore. Don't do that anymore." And that was almost the powers of B telling him, "You can't do whatever you want to do. We can tell you what to do." And shortly thereafter, here we come with Cassie. And so, as a person,
I didn't know that.
Don't worry about. Oh yeah, y'all remember that? Do you remember that?
I remember him on the street.
As a Joker.
I seen it,
And
but I didn't know they told him don't do that.
They told him don't do it. They told him not to do it because it actually, first of all, it kind of harms their brand, right? So if I'm the owner of that trademark and I own the rights to the Joker, I may not want to be connected to Puffy Combs like that. And then I remember they told him not to do it. Then he dressed as somebody else after that, and then ran it about.
He dressed up like the clown.
Yeah,
from It. That's
what he did. And so when I start looking at that, when they start telling you what you can do and can't do, and in addition to that, we're talking about a lot of money. Like, I want you to think about this. Puffy owns a lot of rights to music. I mean, I want you to think about all the Biggie stuff, all the Total stuff, all of the Mace stuff, all of the Faith Evans stuff. He owns a lot. He's done a lot of music. Mary J. Blige. He owns a lot of music through the years, and he had been well taught by the veterans in the game. We're talking about he came from Andre Harrell. He had a relationship with Clarence Avant, the godfather of black music. If you don't know Clarence Avant, go watch the documentary on him. I know who he is because of all the music that I listen to. I just see his name all the time. So when you start thinking about the power that he has, when you own your rights to a lot of music like that, man, it's your power. You making money in your sleep. And you got to be very, very careful when you start to obtain assets and own part of the music industry like that. And then, you got to be very careful. You got to move differently. You got to be very, very careful. So I get concerned about you bring these kind of charges. You brought them against Jack Johnson. You brought the same thing against Chuck Berry. You brought the same thing against R. Kelly. And now you bring the same thing against Diddy. You got to think about that.
Can I ask y'all a question? Like, I mean, if Diddy would have put her first and married her, do you think she would be in this predicament?
No.
He would be in this predicament.
No. But he's not going to do that. No, he's not going to do that because first of all, he's a billionaire. He don't want her to try to get the money. Now, they can sign a prenup. But if people like Diddy, man, they're very careful because look at Dr. Dre, his prenup.
No, he wouldn't be in this predicament because
She don't have to
This
testify.
is
She wants to testify.
no, because this is what she wanted. She
That's what
wanted
she
to
wants,
be
yeah.
first.
He would be in a worse
So
predicament.
let me just interject here a little bit. So it came out in court that right before she sued Diddy, her husband, and the 2 kids ended up moving back to Connecticut to live with her mother. So the
Hmm.
defense built up this big narrative about them having financial problems, and that's why she sued Diddy.
Mhm.
Hmm.
You know, that's the thing. You know, we got to touch on that. And I need to say this. I don't want to talk too much. Sometimes as a lawyer, I talk too much. But we got to talk about this. And I'll tell you, I worked for a professional athlete before. And one of the baby's moms, she pulled some stuff. And I was just like, wow. You know what I mean? When you see somebody of means and you see what they do, and she pulls something on his birthday. You know what I'm saying? It's like she pulls something on his birthday.
But don't you think that she should have got paid that money? She did a lot. She did
Hey,
a lot.
I get it, but you know, I always tell
He
people,
should have just paid that to her like when they broke up. I mean, she did a lot for that.
but you know
He
what
should,
happens. But you know what the issue is though.
and she wanted all that stuff. She wanted it. She got a payday. She should have got a payday because she did a lot. Because
But
I wouldn't do none of that stuff
you
that
know what the
she's
issue is
talking. I
though.
got too many morals for
Yeah,
myself. And I
yeah.
don't want that. I don't sell myself for no money. Not no. I don't want all that lavish stuff to have what she went through and what she did and what she asked those people to do to her to please him.
But
I
we're from a
wouldn't
different
want
era.
that.
We're from a different era. Y'all
I'm
already
gonna say
young.
this. I'm gonna say this is that, and go ahead. I want you to tell the story about the girl. I want you to finish that story. Go ahead.
Well, she pulled something on his birthday and then tried to you know, she really tried to put some smut on his name, and they ended up breaking up. He gave her a settlement, which upon she agreed to it, she took the money and bought a house she couldn't afford, thought she was going to go on a TV show, and because of the agreement that she signed when she got the money, it prevented her from putting the kids and her on the show, and she literally had lost the house that she bought and spent all the money on. But the reason why I say this is because I've seen some people do some really cold stuff to
Mm-hmm.
folks when money's involved, and once the gravy train stops. Mel, you understand what I'm saying? Once that gravy train stops, and you're
Oh
used to
yeah.
living that lifestyle, and you're not driving the Bentley no more, and you're not going shopping, and you actually have to start watching your money. Think about all the years she was with Puppy. He just gave her the card. Just go buy what you want. Go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, you know, like you said, like Gillian Wallow had a conversation like, I'm gonna take on a go crazy day. Just give it a call and let it go crazy. You know, so when you think about that, you can't go crazy no more. Think about what you'll do when you lose that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Right.
yeah,
So let me
I
run this.
agree.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So let me run this past you. The second witness was a security guard who responded. You see him in the video. He comes out of the
Mm-hmm.
elevator. He
Mm-hmm.
assists her with the situation. He takes his cell phone and records the video, and that's how we end up seeing the video because of what he did. But he recorded it to go home and show it to his wife. How does that affect the case?
Well, first of all, you know, if he was law enforcement, he would definitely have a problem because when they see a crime like that, they're supposed to report it. The other thing is when you see a security officer like that, um, as a defense attorney, my concern is, okay, you got this part of the video, and I know the video probably lasts maybe 30 or 40 seconds, and then you see, but you only got that 30 or 40 seconds. Did you get the 1 minute before then? Did you get the 5 minutes after then? And I think there were questions about, hey, did you go and question anyone else? Did you talk to the person that was in the room or other people that were in the room to see what was happening? For all we know, she could have hit Puffy in the face and then ran down the hallway and he was trying to catch her to hit her back. We don't know that. And the concern that I have when I see a security guard take a phone And just to do a video, you're more concerned with showing this to your wife than doing your job, making sure that woman's safe, reporting it to the police, and making sure that nobody's hurt. You're more concerned with fame or having a video or something that you know, and who knows what you could have did later on. You could have had this video and been like, if none of this ever happens, you could have called Puffy one day and said, you know, man, I got this video, man. Listen, I got this video and it's going to get out. If I don't receive $2 million tomorrow, this video's coming out, Jack. You could have been doing it for the purposes of that. You're telling us you went home to show it to your wife, but you may have been doing something and saying, hey, I see an opportunity.
But
And
why
so-
didn't he videotape when he was giving him the money, asking like, here go 100,000? Why didn't he videotape that so it could have kept him safe? Because she's supposed to have a bruise, you know, on her eye, and he was trying to get her out of the room to get her stuff back. So he stood right there by the door. He should have been videotaping for his safety that nothing went down. Just like they're saying that the other male worker, he said, I videotaped because I didn't want to get in trouble if she died that night.
Well, that's the whole deal. Like he's videotaping, but he doesn't report anything. He keeps the video. He doesn't report it.
But he videotapes it off of the screen of the security screen, not in actuality. Like that's where I don't get it. And then just like you said, it's like almost he partied like, oh man, I got Diddy on here and I had to call my wife. Oh, y'all see my shoes?
Yeah, bingo.
He was looking at his shoes. And it seemed like he really wasn't taking it seriously.
And see,
and how can you take him seriously up there?
Bingo. Like if you're doing security, you're supposed to make sure that people are safe. You got protocols that you operate by, and taping the screen and taking that particular screen. As a hotel guest, they'll tell you, you should not be videoing guests. You should not be videoing guests. What happens in a hotel on screens, you shouldn't be doing. They have directives not to do that because you're sharing people's personal information. And some people at hotels don't want folks to know they're at hotels. And I know they have those conversations because I know people who own hotels. They're very discreet. You don't get in the middle of that kind of stuff. You try to avoid that. And I bet you if I'm the defense attorney, hey, what are your training? What kind of training did you take to do this job? What are your rules and directives of Trump Corp or whatever hotel corp that you were staying at? What are the directives? What's in your employee handbook?
And your bylaws, yes.
Yeah, what are your do's and don'ts? I'm going to ask about those things if I'm the defense attorney. And I'm going to ask, were you doing your job to the level of service that you were trained to do on the night in question? And while you were taping these people and their personal information, were you doing your job when you were doing that? And so that's something that I'm definitely going to ask if I'm the defense attorney.
So Mel, hold on a bit. I want to ask Mel. So what did you find out in the case as you were listening that would apply to some of these things?
As far as applying to some of these things, I'm not totally sure, but I will tell you this. If you just look at the details, like account number 2, fraud, force, or coercion, and you look at the video, do you see that? Think about that. Do you see any of those? That's just count 2. Do you see it in the video?
No fraud.
What's that?
No fraud in the video. What you're talking about, the Continental Hotel, right?
Right.
No fraud. I don't see him with no money or telling, here goes some cash right here. I don't see him giving the cash to the guy. Coercion. I can see him just pulling her back, trying to let's go. But that can be like a regular fight. Like, I don't want you to go. You know, something. Everybody been in a relationship to where you might get in a little spat, but you know, he went a little above and beyond.
Yeah.
So
that's kidnapping, though. It's still kidnapping.
The second one, hold on. The second one was force. You didn't speak on that. Do you see force in the video?
That could be
I
a
see.
problem.
I
Do
can
you
see
see force in
force.
the video?
Yep, force. I do. So
Okay,
if
so
you could
how
prove
can he
just
get?
one out of there,
So that's count 2. How's he going to get around that?
How do you get around force? If I'm the
right?
attorney, what I'm going to say is, um, depending on the context of that, number one, you have to explain it in another way. What was happening before she ran out of the hotel room? Um, you try to come up with an excuse for why you were trying to bring her back in the hotel room, but the problem is he's kicking her and all that kind of stuff, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
where it's going to be hard for him to get around the force part, because that video, and that's probably why he didn't want that video to get out. That video is a problem for him. The way he was kicking her, man, he was kicking her like he was trying to kick 60-yard field goals.
Okay, so
I
let me
mean,
give it
that's a problem.
to you. Let me give it to you like this, since you're an attorney, okay? The first witness is a sex worker. He testifies he's at the Intercontinental Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and he describes the scenario. He's a black guy, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
The security guard says that when he takes Cassie back to the room, he sees a black man sitting on the bed.
In black, yes.
Then you have Cassie saying it was a sex off, a freak off. She was trying to get away, and he's trying to pull her back to the room to continue her freak off, which the man in the room is an escort getting paid. So how do you get around this?
That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But the issue,
there lies the problem.
but the issue
Okay.
is, remember, there's a lot of her encouraging being involved in the freak offs, and so as the attorney, you consistently question her willingness to be involved in these freak offs. So what you want to try to do, in a sense, I would try to distract the jury a little bit to continue to talk about her willingness to be involved in the freak offs. But that video does cause Puffy a problem, because when you're trying to force somebody back into a room, you're kicking them, you that kind of stuff. And then there's things what we call as attorneys, some things what they call shock your conscience, right? I mean, I've seen people fight on video, but then I've seen shock your conscience kind of behavior. And what Puffy did in that video wasn't a regular me and you having a spat and a couple of licks go back and forth. He had a shock your conscience moment. And when I see juries, sometimes I can explain a little tit for tat. But when you do and go as far as he went, as almost trying to kick a field goal with this girl, that's a problem. Girl, like she was a football.
Right. So let
that's
me
a problem.
Okay. So let me give you one more angle before I have to go. All right. Let me see what you have to say about this. Witness number 1 says that during the freak off, there's a lot of baby oil. They're using Astroglide. You know, he's prepped by the prosecutor, so he's mentioning Astroglide. He receives thousands of dollars. There's candles everywhere. There's low lighting. There's baby oil all over the walls sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drug activity. Cassie comes in. She describes the same thing, that they use baby oil. They're using candlelight. All of the things that the sex worker described. Okay. Now, this is basically what I heard in the media. I did not hear this in court, but I'm going to try to paint a picture for you guys. This is allegedly, from what I remember, when he was arrested. I'm here in New York, so in the local news, I heard that Diddy was, let's say he's supposed to be arrested on March the 2nd. They came in and got him on the 1st because they received some tip. Diddy was trying to move to another room, and I think that's the reason why they swooped in and got him out of the first room. So the first room is what the lady in Homeland Security just broke down, the items that were in the room. the very items that all of the witnesses so far had described that would be needed to facilitate a freak off is the very items that they brought in as exhibits and passed around to the jurors on Friday. How do you get around that?
That's going to be very, very difficult to get around. When I say it's going to be very, very difficult to get around, because you already have somebody previously testifying that, hey, that's what we use in our freak offs. And then on the day that they arrest you, they find those very, very, very things in your room. Now, what you try to do is you try to say, hey, this was just consenting adults having sex, and this is what we use when we have sex. They were willing to do this. This is what we do when we hook up. We like sex. This is what we're doing. Is that moral? No, it's not. Is it illegal? If it's drugs, it's a problem. But if it's Astroglide and baby oil and this other stuff, no, we actually use this. And even if it is drugs, they want to do drugs and have sex. That's just what we're doing. And so that's what you're trying to do.
But ain't they trying to paint him as a drug addict? Him and her was drug addicts. Like he's a drug addict.
Mm-hmm.
So when the feds Homeland Security came in there and they found that, I think they wanted them to find that because they said he knew they was coming after him.
Yeah.
So I think they wanted to show that he's a user.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Correct?
Yeah. But
and then and he's a sex addict as well.
But being a sex addict is not illegal. And so this is the issue. The sex part of it is not illegal. They can do what they want to do. Now, the problem is when you start paying people, start paying a lot of people a lot of money, start moving things around to get them there. That's when it becomes a problem, when you're paying people, or when people are saying like, I really don't want to do this. In Cassie's situation, I don't want to do this anymore. Such and such. But my concern for Cassie is this, and this is something that I think I want to touch on, that a lot of people have. They're saying that people were peeing on her and doing all this other kind of stuff. Like, even if somebody wants you to do that and you're doing that's just something you don't like. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's nasty. Who wants to have that happen to them? So why are you allowing that level of degradation to happen to you? It's just not, don't get me wrong, but unless you want to do that, if you know we having freak offs, this is what he's having people do to me, why am I continuing in the freak offs? Why?
But
he
said, but she's the one that said that she wanted them to, do that on her. Like,
but on me. So let me jump in. So Cassie testified that Diddy, along with the sex worker, both urinated in her mouth at the same time, and she choked. And the prosecutor asked her, how did you feel? She says, how would you feel when two men are standing over you peeing on you?
But don't you think that she was asked that the day before and she answered the question, and then she had to come back, and then I think she thought about it, or somebody told her, like, you got to change your answer up? Because I mean, she did come back the next day. Am I correct or am I incorrect? Or she answered it all through that day, one day?
She did come back the second day.
I gotta ask.
So wait, wait, Bill. So you're saying that? So in her initial thing, she said that this happened to her, and then the next day she said that it wasn't uncomfortable, or did it happen in the same day that she said it happened that she was uncomfortable with it?
No, I think you're probably getting confused with something else. I think she was asking about the court testimony. Like she started on Tuesday, it goes into Wednesday, Thursday. But I think you're asking a different question. But as far as this testimony, she said it all in one fell swoop. There was no time to go back and try to say something different.
That's the
Okay.
thing. I was trying to make sure
Okay.
that
It's very
I was
clear.
just trying to get
saying
it
that
correct. Yeah.
No,
Can I
this
let me ask a
case.
question. Let me ask a question, Mel.
Yeah.
After the peeing situation, did she participate in any more freak offs after that?
Yeah, she did.
Mm.
Yeah, but then you have Stockholm syndrome, so there's no
Give
way
me
to
a
really
break.
there's no way to really argue that, because that's what people are going to say.
I'd
Yeah.
argue, you know what? I'm going to argue it anyway, just
Yeah.
because that's what people are going to say. At the end of the day, it's not to prove that she's wrong. Lying is reasonable doubt. If there's a reasonable doubt about her either wanting to participate or not wanting to participate, then if you're an attorney, then you tell the jury, if there is reasonable doubt that Cassie is wants to participate, wanted to or not, didn't want to participate in this, then we need to, you need to find from my defendant, because in that particular situation, you just got to create reasonable doubt. You ain't got to take all doubt away. So is it reasonable that somebody likes something and they wanted to come back and do it again? Is that a reasonable thought? Now, of course, that's nasty to just the regular folks like us, but some people like that. And if somebody likes that, they're going to come back and want to do that again. Some people have their fetishes. So as a defense attorney, that's what I'm going to say. I have to create reasonable doubt, which means I don't have to prove that I didn't do it. They have to prove that I did. So I just want to punch holes. Now, what you're saying, Mel, in some situations, can I punch holes in everything that's there? Maybe I can't. But where I can punch holes, I want to punch holes.
Right.
here's one question too. I have to say, because now, based on all this stuff that's being brought up, people are saying that Diddy has that based on what is being said, that he has it could be a situation for a mistrial. I want to ask both you and Mel, do you see that this could be a possibility?
I think there's always a possibility. Obviously, I'm not the attorney here in the situation. Anything is possible. But from what I'm seeing, and this is New York State, like I said, I sat through Trump's trial. I'm sitting through Diddy's trial. They're heavy hitters. And a lot of people don't want to face the music and face the facts, but these people do this every day. And the way they're laying this case out, I just can't see it happening, because the judge is right in there with him. It's like he does go at the defense, a reasonable amount of time. But what I'm saying is, they really have their act together.
And I definitely understand 100% what you're saying. In a situation like that, a judge isn't going to want a mistrial because he wants to appear that he runs a fair and equitable and efficient courtroom. So he's going to try to make sure that people don't do things to cause mistrials, right? And even if they do, he wants to try to remedy those things. And that's why having a good attorney on the front end who objects a lot, even if he isn't winning his objections, is actually a plus for the defense, to make sure that you preserve that error. If some error if some error happens, you want to preserve it. But I agree with you, Mel. It's going to be very difficult for Puffy to get a mistrial in this situation, because I think this judge and those prosecutors do a good enough job, and they're trained well enough to make sure that even when it gets close to the little stuff happening, they're going to head it at the pass to keep it from happening.
Yeah, because let me tell you something. I try to tell people online, at the courthouse, there's a lot of people that are from all over the world, and a lot of people are just running away with stories just to make headlines and get clicks. That's what it's about. It's okay, that's fine. But when you look at the meat of the trial, and you really say, well, how much of this trial is really Cassie? What is it? On a good day, 20%?
Mm-hmm.
There's another 80%. His assistant was raped by him. This is what they're claiming. His assistant that worked for him, loyal for years, was raped by him. How are you going to get around that? They have another girl named Gina who was doing the exact same thing after Cassie had moved on. Now Gina's doing the freak offs, and she's probably going to mention these same guys by name that Cassie mentioned. So now
Mm-hmm.
you have a repeat, and then there's other girls that are coming. There's 5 witnesses or 5 victims. They said 5 victims. We don't even know
Mm.
who the other 4 are yet. This girl,
Now,
Don Richard, she's a witness. They're not classifying her so far as a victim. So when you start to factor in all of these different things, there's way more to come.
And what you just said, and I try to tell people, there's a reason why the feds bat 99%. That's why they hit home runs.
Bro,
They
they
don't
don't
hit
play no
singles.
game.
They don't hit singles. You know, when I try to tell people, if you got a Fed case, they are on your, you know what? They have unlimited resources. They have the ability to subpoena something, get it in a day. Like if a state district attorney's office subpoenas something, it may take them 30, 60 days. When the feds ask for something, they get it the next day. They have private investigators that know how to go get stuff. They have the ability, and you have to understand, they got stuff that we don't even know about technology wise that they have to their disposal that the regular people don't have at their disposal. The prosecutors they choose typically come from the cream of the crop. Now, they're not unbeatable, but at the same time, they're very, very, very difficult to beat because they have those resources and they work for the government and they want to prosecute these cases and prosecute these cases well. And so when you got a Fed case, man, when the feds come for you, that's why you got to be careful. And I'll tell you, I've represented folks and these guys, especially when it comes to this trafficking, I've represented some folks and they've somehow let a 15 or 16-year-old sneak through the cracks. And I said, boy, you just messed up. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you went from a state case to a Fed case, and you may have a detective that got 1,000 cases, and you're one of them, so he can't really work your case down, so he lets you get away with a bunch of stuff. But man, when they put a federal investigator on you, or they have these funds where human trafficking, if it's human trafficking involved, they have grants, all these grant money that they can go pick up off of. And so now, instead of having one detective watch your case, they can come in, create a task force, go get about 4 or 5 detectives and private eyes, and they can watch you. They can put somebody on you 24/7 for 2 or 3 or 4 months at a time. So that's why you got to really worry about that kind of stuff. But y'all, I'm probably going to have to go now. I've extended my time as far as I can go today, but because I got to eat my dinner and my wife's home, I got stuff I have to take care of. But at the same time, I enjoy talking to you, Mel. I want to do this again real soon, Genesis. And nice to meet you too as well, ma'am. I definitely want us. We got it. I think us 4 back together. I think it would be a great another podcast.
Yeah, I'll just leave you with this. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I enjoy speaking with you, especially you, Mel, and you, Calvin, as well. And then that's my cousin. So
okay,
I just wanted to hear like from a different perspective because it was just like really killing me. Like, you know how the trial is going.
Yeah.
So I was happy to hear like feedback from some other people. And thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Y'all were very intelligent.
Yes.
And I want to say this, Calvin and Mel, Calvin, I really appreciate you being here. I think I want to get some final words from each of you guys before we close it out.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go clockwise, starting with Vet. Give some final words, and we're gonna put you up here. Give some final words.
Thanks for having me on the show, and I enjoyed speaking with the guys about this trial, and hopefully we can speak on it again, because I'll be looking at this trial every day, and I'll have my own perspective of what's going on. So, to the next person, Genesis.
All right. Now, Calvin, go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's a very interesting case, especially when you have a man of means like Puffy who actually can fight them. But once again, the federal government, man, they bet 99%, 99.5% to tell you the truth. And so it's a very tough situation for him. I think that some of the stuff to me is a money grab. But with that being said, I think Puffy and the ability to have all of these people work for him and do certain things for him has created a RICO situation for him that's going to be extremely difficult for him to be able to deal with, because of all the people he has at his disposal and the way that they were operating, flying people here and there, sex workers left and right, people doing all of this stuff. And then once again, he's up against a formidable opponent, the federal government, and it is hard as hell to beat them. They're not unbeatable, but they're damn near unbeatable.
And you know this as an attorney. You've done this yourself.
Yes, yes.
Ashe. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
So-
Mel.
So this case has a lot of cloudy things happening. There's a lot of noise. People are having all these different perspectives. You hear so much in the media, but it's really like Occam's razor. The simple way is usually the most accurate. And so what the federal government is doing, no matter what anybody is saying, it boils down to this. Did you pay sex workers to sleep with someone? Cassie says yes. The sex worker says yes. Did you fly sex workers from New York to California to perform these sex acts? The sex worker says yes. Cassie says yes. In the video, do you see force? That's what they have. This is one of the things the prosecutor says: fraud, force, and coercion. She's trying to leave us a sex off, a freak off. She gets beat and drugged back, attempting to drag her back to the room. It's really simple. So the name of this story is Behave Yourself.
Yes, yes, yes,
That's all about.
You hit it on the head, my brother. You hit it on the head.
yes.
Yeah. So that's it. And thank you guys. It was nice meeting you.
Nice
Thank
meeting you
you.
too, man. I would
Nice
love to
meeting
y'all. I would
y'all.
love to do this again though, because I think that everybody asks for perspective. DJ Genesis, you do. Your cousin does. Mel does, because he's actually in the courtroom. So, second of all, go New York. Go Knicks. I'm a big Jalen Brunson fan. I grew up with Larry Johnson. He's a friend of mine. I actually was with him a month ago going to the Texas Sports Hall of Fame here in Texas. So go Knicks. I wish them the best. And I really wish all of y'all the best. I want to see y'all again.
All right.
Okay.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Man, thank you so much, Mel. This has been an awesome show. Shouts out to everybody and peace.